Let's talk some sports, baby.
Taken by Iguodala. Iguodala to Curry. Back to Iguodala. Up for the layup. Oh, blocked by Jones.
And remember, make tomorrow better than today and make today better than yesterday. And you know what we gonna do. We gonna holler at you until next time, baby.
Welcome to A Drink of Wisdom with Jay Wise and Nathan Drinkard. I'm your host, Cody Ward. Thank you for spending some of your time with us tonight. As a reminder to all our listeners, besides being on all your favorite podcast platforms, A Drink of Wisdom is also on YouTube, with each show segment available. Head on over if you like what you hear. Well, we would appreciate your subscription. What's going on, guys?
Hey, what's going on? Playoffs. Good time of year. Glad to have them. Anyway, it's the drink, it's the beer, and it's the wisdom. Let's do it.
Let's talk some sports, baby. You know what it is. Let's do it.
Let's do it, man. In episode 87, the Celtics take care of business, the Bucks do not, and we delve into the Big Ten college football fiasco. But we begin tonight with a look at Game 1 of Clippers-Mavericks. The Clippers ultimately took care of the Mavs, 118-110, thanks to a 56-point combination from Kawhi and Paul George. Luka led the Mavericks with 42 in his playoff debut, but without Porzingis, thanks to a second-half ejection, they were unable to close out the game. Despite being a 2-versus-7 matchup, though, Dallas did prove they were here to play, leading for stretches and even digging out of an early 18-2 hole. So, Jay, was the Porzingis ejection really the difference? Do the Mavs have a legit chance to shock the Clippers? What do you think?
First of all, out of all the 1-8 and 2-7 matchups, this was the most compelling to me, and my position on that is unchanged. But no, they don't have a chance against the Clippers. I think they got a chance to win a game, and that game may have been last night if we want to get into, Kristaps Porzingis perhaps being the difference. He was ejected with about 9 minutes left to go in the third quarter, and the Mavericks were up by 5 at that particular moment in time. But overall, Dallas can't handle the Clippers. They just don't have enough. When we look at the Clippers and we look at the Mavericks and we compare those two teams, much like when we look at the Mavericks and Lakers, the Clippers-Lakers rather. All three of these teams have dynamic duos, Kawhi and PG-13, and then the Mavericks with the young European connection with Luka and Porzingis. But then when you go down the roster after that, it's a bit of a mismatch. You consider how the Clippers can go with Marcus Morris, who, by the way, that was the best game he's played with the Clippers in my estimation so far, giving you 19 points. Playing some good defense and being part of the reason Porzingis was ejected from that game. But you know about Lou Williams, you know about Shaman and Montrezl Harrell, who, oh, by the way, you didn't get a whole lot from those guys last night. So we got to keep that in mind when you talk about, well, was the ejection of Porzingis the difference? Well, I mean, it could have been, but we also got to think about guys for the Clippers on down the line who didn't really do a lot. Oh, by the way, you can add Patrick Beverley in there as well. He didn't do a whole lot last night except fall around looking like he's doing a Kyle Lowry impersonation. But no, listen, this series.
Kyle Lowry, he's inspirational.
This game,
he's an inspirational guy.
that's one way of putting it. But this game and this series, I think it's going to go how we think it's going to go. We can get into those technicals, and we know whether we agree with them or disagree with them. But all in all, I think when you look at Kawhi, when you look at Paul George, and when you get those two guys out there clicking on all cylinders, as they appear to be last night, I mean, they're going to be tough to beat. And when you add in Marcus Morris, when you get that third guy, a lot of nights they're going to have a third, a fourth, and a fifth guy. And Marcus Morris, that's a bonus when he can shoot that way and make go 3 for 6 from downtown. It's pretty simple. But since we mentioned the technicals, I know that's been a hot topic. So let me get into those. First of all, the first technical for Porzingis, it was weak. There's no doubt about it. I actually thought when that it looked like a clean block from Porzingis, it looked like the whole Dallas Maverick 5-man crew on the court. They all reacted in such a way I would have given them a team technical. Just a team technical, and the next one you get, then we'll let somebody shoot free throws. But they gave it to Porzingis. I thought it was pretty weak. But then the second technical, you go into the third quarter, and, Doncic and Morris, they get a little tangled up. That's part of what Marcus Morris does. He's an irritant. He's an agitator. So then you have Porzingis coming in from the side, and he's acting like he wants to throw down, and then the refs have to come in there and they have to put the clamps on that stuff. They're not going to let any situation get out of control. They got to maintain some level of order in this game. They don't want to see some big brawl going out there. This ain't the NHL, for crying out loud. So they dish out double technicals, and oh, by the way, live on the broadcast, George, you were there. At least I think you were. And I said, well, that's easy. That's a double technical. They reviewed it. They made the call. It's something that we've seen. We see this. They've been doing this stuff for years now. They see two guys kind of getting into it. They're going to put the clamps on it, give out double technicals. We're going to move on. The problem here is, and some people I think are missing this, Porzingis was not ejected for that act. He was ejected because it was his second technical foul. And that's where you have to take some responsibility if you're an individual player. When you have one technical foul already, that's your warning. And as bogus as you may think it was, you are on notice for the rest of the game. And Porzingis, Drink brought up a great point. Young guy, first playoff experience, might have not taken that into good consideration as he should have. So I think it's a valuable learning experience. But overall, that's part of the Marcus Morris effect. You can't get suckered into anything with Marcus Morris because if you're Porzingis, you're way too valuable. You're too valuable to your team to get involved in something like that. I get it. You want to defend your teammate at all, but you already had one technical. You can't do anything. You got to be on your absolute best behavior the rest of the game, and don't give the referees an excuse to throw you out. Let 42 or let somebody else, get in the mix and defend Luka Doncic. That shouldn't be your responsibility right there.
Yeah. So since we brought up the technicals, hey, it's only right that I start with the technicals. Boop. So listen, let's be real here. We seen it. Both calls needed some milk. That's what it was. They both needed some milk. You know what I'm saying? It does about it good. Now, as we gather this information, here's the deal. So Porzingis goes up. He clean block on Paul George. Clean block. If you want to say, all right, his forearm rubbed Paul George forearm, so that was a foul on the body. Okay, but I don't think that's why the referee called it. He called it because he felt like the hand was hacked, and he disrupted his roll to the basket. All right, cool. Porzingis get mad. He say something. Here's the deal. It's no way you're gonna tell me Porzingis said something so bad that, oh man, he's over the line. Give him a tech. Now, if you want to give him a tech because of his act, the way he looked, the way he was coming, cool. I mean, I don't like it, but cool, whatever. The referees are the referees. They can look at it however they look at it. It is what it is. This game been played 100 years this way. It ain't gonna change today. You know what I mean? So, all right, you give Porzingis the technical. Now, at that time, I'm thinking in my head, could you just challenge that? And if it gets overturned, could you remove that? Not really thinking the NBA protocol, how that works when it comes to technicals. Only the NBA can remove a technical, those guys in the head shed. So, all right, whatever. So I'm thinking, Rick Carlisle, just challenge the foul. So even if Porzingis keeps the technical, at least he know you as the coach, you had his back. You thought he was right. All right. Do you have it do you have that challenge left for you in the fourth quarter? You don't. But I think that was a pretty pivotal moment of the game because Porzingis picked that foul up, and clearly he didn't understand that you only get two of them. That's why he come running up in the crowd like he about to do something, look like he breaking up a school fight. Look, listen, I think Rick Carlisle should have saved his star player a little bit on that. But to go to the softness of the both calls, yeah, they soft. Porzingis, and I want to make sure we all on the same page with this. I think last night was a big moment in two different ways for the Dallas Mavericks, because we do have to understand that European connection, as Jay called it. Look, here's the deal. This is their first playoff game ever. Not only is this their first playoff game ever, it's their first playoff game in the bubble, during the coronavirus, doing all this. It's so much emotion and distraction going around this way and the other. what I liked about what I seen last night was it was a learning lesson for Porzingis. It was a learning lesson, first and foremost. You can't come out here with that crap. This ain't a random Tuesday night in San Antonio, buddy. This ain't it. This the playoffs. You have to stay in tune to what's going on. You get one foul, one cheap one, $1 store foul, you got to stay quiet. And Jay made this point earlier. A guy by the name of Paul George also had a technical foul early in the game. And he carried that sucker all the way to the end. That just shows you the difference between a veteran and a guy that's coming up, that wants to be a star, a superstar. Paul George is there. Porzingis got to learn some things before he gets up there. That's just, it's levels to this. That's what we seen last night. It's levels. Because had Porzingis knew that, I don't think he goes running into that crowd all crazy. Now, my second point, he ran into the crowd. He had Luka Doncic back. He had his boy back. You know what I'm saying? Hey, don't be getting rough with my boy. That's our leading player. No, I ain't playing that. I hit you with one of these European, you know what I'm saying? So after the game, what I liked was Luka, when they interviewed Luka, the very first thing he says is, yo, he did that for me. He had my back. He came to my you know what I'm saying, my rescue. That's what I like. I like to see that because what that tells me from now on, even if they got swept in the series, whatever the case might be, in the future, these guys seem to like to play with each other, right? They seem to like they're building a bond. We got to remember these dudes are still babies. Because Luka like 21, Porzingis can't be no older than about 23 if that. Like he has. They're babies, so they're growing together, so they're learning things together. Anybody that have kids understand what I'm saying. Like when you have kids and they grow up, they just start learning more and more and more and more and more about each other. All right, they get older, they hate each other. But either way, they start, you know what I'm saying, getting along, growing up with each other and learning more about each other. And that's what I seen last night. I thought that was a great sign for the Dallas Mavericks as far as the future goes. I thought that was a great sign as far as them being the duo and, leading Dallas off to some great things. But Porzingis learned a lesson last night. Now, here's the deal. With all that said, that was the headliner, was the two technicals. We still had a game to play. And let me just tell you something. Luka dropping 42 or 40, he dropped 40.
42.
What was it? 42? Okay. He dropped 42. Porzingis had the most interesting 14 points I ever seen in a Bubbles game, because when I seen this after the game, I'm like, 14? Nah, he had more than that. I could have sworn I watched him do more than that. Nope, that's what I watched him do. So I thought that had to be the most interesting 14 points I ever seen. And then, Hardaway and Curry. My point of bringing them up is this. If you look at this still was a one-man show. That ain't going to get the job done. Even when Porzingis was playing, evidently, it seemed somewhat of a one-man show. That ain't it, because when I look over here at the Clippers and I see Kawhi had 29, Paul George had 27, Morris had 19, Lou Williams, Sweet Chicken, Magic City Lou, had 14. Like, that's you spreading it out. You're not putting all the load on one person. Dallas, if you don't take anything else from that game, just know you're not winning like this. You're not winning being a one-man band. I'm sorry. That's not going to happen. I do like that Luka Doncic did this in his very first playoff game. That's very encouraging for the future of the NBA, for the future of the Dallas Mavericks. But I don't want to see this. If I see this for 4 straight games, guess what? Gonna pencil the Clippers in because they're going to sweep them, and we're going to get on to it. So, overall, I thought it was a really good, entertaining game up into the whole Porzingis thing, and then Dallas fell off the rails after that. That showed you how important Porzingis was. As soon as he get ejected, Dallas looked uninterested in doing anything else. The only person that was playing after that was Luka Doncic. Everybody else was kind of like, we lost our guy. I don't feel like shooting no more. I don't feel like playing defense. I just found out what number 42 name was. Now I gotta actually talk to him.
This dude, don't get me started. Don't get me started on 42.
Don't leave that man alone. He's doing his best.
This dude, oh my god.
But yeah, that to answer your question, Porzingis did make a difference last night. I do think the Mavericks could have snuck and won one last night. It's usually the first game that you do try to win. I mean, just take a page out of the Orlando Magic book. You know what I'm saying? That's the one you want to win. Is the first one, and no, the Mavericks ain't shocking nobody. They ain't shocking nobody. Not with this defense. Not with this one-man band. They ain't shocking nobody. They might win a game. I'm not saying they won't win a game, but the Clippers gonna win this series. That's all it is to it. So, yeah, that's my outlook on that one, man.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the technical goes, y'all mostly covered it. I would just add that if you're Porzingis, especially when you're talking about that second technical, when that brawl, it's not even really a brawl. It was just Morris and Doncic were just close to each other. Like, they were kind of those grills, but it's not like Morris had a freaking chair over his head. He was about to crack Doncic's skull with it. I mean, I get, like, going after and, like, protecting your dude, but you got to be a little smarter than that, because I'm pretty sure if you went back after it and said, hey, Doncic, would you ever Porzingis ran up and got next to you or been there the entire second half on that, like, microphone on a stick interview, he probably would have said, hey, I'd rather have him in the second half. So, yeah, in the moment it feels right, but you got one tech, these guys are calling it tight, and you're not part of that initial event. You're coming over after the fact and instigating further. They're going to call that. And hey, like you said, Drink, those calls need a milk, but you got to be smarter in the first place. If you're Porzingis and you are a star, you are one of the guys that we're going to rely on. That comes to the territory, whether it's right, wrong, or center. You got to think a little smarter. As far as the game goes, real quick, I would say that you can take this a couple different ways, but one thing I look at is I feel like the Mavericks, besides keeping Porzingis around, that's about what they're going to play like. Luka's going to be brilliant. You got 5 threes from Seth Curry. You got solid effort from Tim Hardaway. Hey, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist gave you 2 threes. Hey, that's 6 points you probably weren't expecting. And even there, you look at the Clippers and go, well, Harrell barely played. He was just getting his feet wet. Williams is going to get better. Even guys like Green and Jackson, they're probably going to play better down the stretch. And you know that you're going to get that from Kawhi and Paul George at a minimum. That's like you're getting that before they even step on the court. So how much better can the Mavericks really play down the stretch? And one particular matchup that worries me with the Mavericks is it's really Doncic in defensive assignments. He was on Morris most of the game, and Morris had his best night in the bubble so far. He had 19 points, and there's not a lot of other places to hide Doncic's weakness on defense, because his biggest problem with his game really is the defensive side of the ball. We know in the playoffs, coaches can really begin to exploit that, and it's much harder to kind of hide a guy, if you will, on that defensive side. And the Clippers, they can start rotating different guys in there. Maybe you take Beverly out and you put someone else in that Doncic can't really guard. Maybe you see some changes like that. And I think Doc Rivers will make those adjustments in the second half or the second game of the series. And when you look at going further, with Doncic, when you combine that weakness on the defensive side and the turnovers, it takes away some of that luster of the 42 points. I mean, he's a brilliant young player. He's got plenty of time to fix these problems. But in this series, at minimum, he's got to take care of the ball a little better, because he did have a lot of turnovers, especially early on, and that's something he's going to have to improve. But yeah, overall, I think the Clippers. I think the Mavericks could definitely pull out a game on this series, but it's hard to imagine they're going to really, really work back into the series overall and make it a 7-game, competitive deal.